My name is Sacha Poingnonnec and I run a company called Africa Internet Group.
And Sacha, tell me, what is Africa Internet Group?
Africa Internet Group is a company, right? It's a company which operates a number of internet-based businesses in Africa. We are now present in 23 countries and we have 9 subsidiaries or 9 brands or 9 companies which operate below us. We have e-commerce marketplaces. The most famous company is called Jumia. Another one is called Kaimu. We then have lifestyle marketplaces, one for hotel reservation, which is called Jovago, another one for taxi booking, which is called Easy Taxi, and another one for food ordering, which is called Hello Food. And then we have our classifieds division, which has 4 companies, one in real estate, one in cars, one in jobs, and one in general classified. So we have in total 9 companies in 23 countries of Africa, and we employ a little over 5,000 people across Africa.
So what's the relationship between the Rocket Incubator and these companies?
So Rocket Internet, I don't know what you mean by Rocket Incubator, but Rocket Internet is one of the shareholders. So it was the company which originally founded the group, and today it's one of the shareholders. It owns 1/3 of our capital, along with 2 other shareholders, MTN and Millicom. So Rocket Internet is a shareholder, and we have, of course, a very strong relationship with this shareholder, as with any shareholders.
And which countries out of those 22 have you found more challenging? You obviously understood that they were all going to be challenging, but which do you find particularly challenging? Which have been kind of easier to operate in?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think definitely, and it's a wide, known. It's not a secret. Nigeria is a challenging country. In general, we see challenges as opportunities, because where there are challenges makes things more difficult for companies to operate and companies to find customers. And in general, we like this because we think that is an opportunity to solve a problem, and with the solving the problem comes the opportunity. So we kind of like this challenge. I think there are some other countries which are challenging also for other reasons, in terms of establishing legal presence, opening bank accounts, all those basic kind of details for to operate the businesses. And maybe I can think about Angola or maybe Mozambique, or those are countries where it's difficult just to establish a presence. Yes, same for Ethiopia, for example, which is a difficult country to establish yourself into. I think some of on the other side, there are lots of countries which show a lot of traction, a lot of appetite from the consumers for online services and new services. I'm thinking about Ivory Coast as one of them, where people are very keen to start, and to try new services. I think Uganda is also a great country in our portfolio of countries, where we find very talented individuals to work with. We find a very good environment, and we find a very strong appetite from consumers to work with and to try new services. So I think, yes, some good, some challenging.
Yeah. And which countries are particularly easy to operate in? A couple of those.
So easy. It's never easy in Africa, anywhere, right? I think the qualification of easy is not something you can put. Exactly, it's relative. I think definitely some of the most developed countries. I'm thinking about Morocco, where you can really go and operate as almost in a Western country. I think Kenya also is one of them. Senegal would be another country where it's easy to get started, I would say. So I think there is the easiness to operate, and then in our business there are more factors, right, that comes into into the equation, which are about the consumer appetite for new services, etc. So I think those countries that I mentioned are very easy to get started. Then to win in those markets also is has some challenges. So I would say it's easy to start.
And we will be rolling out new companies. I've heard you're going to be rolling out Vendito shortly.
Yes, so Vendito is our newest business. You have good information. Look, we are very much, our logic is not to launch as many companies as possible or as many countries as possible. Our logic is to really understand from the consumer and the consumer needs, if there is an opportunity to better address those consumer needs. So The answer is yes. I think we will launch new companies, but we are not in a logic of, let's have
new countries every day.
Exactly, or new companies. I think, when you look at the portfolio of the businesses we have, we're, all those companies, they are really here to solve a problem, which is a problem either from the consumer side or from the, vendor side. And so this is really what we're looking for. We're looking for opportunities to solve those issues and not to launch companies for the sake of launching companies. So the answer is yes, we will for sure. I mean, it would be lying to say the opposite, but I cannot tell you there is not yet a plan that we have to launch 10 companies next year or anything like this.
There are a number of other large international or regional companies in the market. Who do you see as being at scale like yourself?
Internationally, it's there are a few groups, right, which are operating in Africa, and Naspers is one of them. We have OLX and Schibsted who are playing in Africa. There is a classifieds group called One Media Africa, which is also present across several countries. I think we see more competition at a very granular level. So for every of our businesses in every country, there is or there are a few competitors who are operating in a very professional way and are in our opinion we see that as good news, because those competitors are pulling the market into the right direction, and so we see this as something more positive.
You are creating the market.
Exactly, yes.
And so in terms of payment, what are the barriers that you see in terms of payment for? Because all of your businesses rely in some greater or lesser extent on payment.
Yes.
Payment methods.
So I mean, in most African countries, consumers want to pay cash. So we created a system which enables those consumers to pay with cash, and we call this cash on delivery. So in this sense, there was a barrier which was mostly how do we make it happen and how do we make cash on delivery possible, because it's complicated and it's difficult and it's challenging, but we made it possible. So this barrier we've overcome it through through operations and through operational processes and making it happen. Then some online companies, they say, look, I don't want to operate cash on delivery and I will only accept electronic payments. I think those companies will not be successful, because in most African countries, consumers don't want to use something else than cash, and I think one cannot go against the consumer preference. One has to understand and accept, and if you understand and accept that people want to pay cash, you have to be ready to create something which will enable them to pay cash. So I think that's the barrier from the operational side. Then if the question is the barrier for to shift from cash to more electronic based payment methods, I think it's very much a mindset shift from the consumer, and this mindset shift, because it's a mindset shift, is something which is difficult to make happen, and I think it will be the sum of many smaller things which will ultimately trigger this change. And one of them will of course be the fact that people need to see, and consumers need to see, a reason, right? When you are used to pay cash, you need to have a reason to pay, with another method, whether it's security, whether it's price. Maybe, some companies will decide that if you pay electronically, you can get a discount and those kind of things. So I think it will be the sum of, the entire B2C industry together, starting to say, okay, if we want to develop this method, then let's really, do it and push the consumers to consider the change. Because right now, people want to pay cash and they like it, and they don't see a reason to do anything, any different.
In 5 to 10 years' time, what will the market be like, do you think?
That's a good question. I think in general, I see lots of small and large businesses in Africa doing a very much higher share of their business through online. So when I look at the portfolio of partners we have, we work with hotels, we work with taxi drivers, with restaurants, with car dealers, real estate agents, distributors. I think all those people, which is a big part of the economy when you think about it, will drive quite a substantial share of their business from the internet, through marketplaces, that, you know, our marketplaces, but also from other, you know, sources. But I think they will have a higher share of the business coming from internet than, you know, in Europe or in the US. And I think this will push them to also consider their, you know, the rest of their business, which is not internet driven, in a more efficient way, because there is something inherent about, you know, online, about, you know, the customer centricity, the efficiency, the, you know, the really the testing and the improvement at a granular level. Exactly. Yeah. And I think those businesses will be pushed by the internet to improve faster and to do things in a bit of a different way. And I think internet, I mean, the way we see it is we see internet leapfrogging some of the more traditional services because of the infrastructure challenge. So we also think that from the consumer side, there will be, you know, a lot of transactions and a lot of, I mean, internet will be part of the day-to-day life for you know, for many aspects of the lives of the consumer. So we are generally, that's where we think, you know, the market is going to.